Let's take a look at today's Labor Day Major League Baseball card. Just a general overview here. We're going to make this an all-inclusive chat. We'll go over some starting pitchers, red hot starting pitchers, and some ice cold ones as well. We'll go over some bullpen concerns. No umpire news to worry about today, as it's the start of a 3-game or 4-game series for each and every team involved today. We can go over some line movements early, basic stuff. But let's start with some extremely important series that are beginning today. And the first one, game 901, 902 on your board here. A 105 Eastern start, 10:05 Pacific. The New York Mets and the Washington Nationals couldn't be any more important at this time. The Nationals benefited from playing the Atlanta Braves over the weekend. They've run their win streak now to 5 consecutive games. They've closed to within 4 of the New York Mets right now. Not worried about a wild card. They're further out in the wild card than they are in the division. Washington right now sits 4 behind with 26 to play. They're going to get a shot at the Mets here in this series. Series opener is going to have John Neese, lefty for the Mets. Max Scherzer, number 1 starter for the Washington Nationals. But boy, Scherzer has been absolutely miserable as of late. His last 5 starts have combined for 28 innings pitched. Over those 28 innings, and just do the math, he hasn't made it through an average of 6 innings pitched over these last 5. The strikeout numbers are good. 38 strikeouts in 28 innings. The home runs allowed are horrible. 8 home runs allowed in his last 28 innings. ERA 6.11, WHIP 1.57. The Mets, to their lineup today, will add Lucas Duda, who rejoins the team off the DL. Now, big lefty power bat to go up against Scherzer here. So the Mets will have all their artillery ready to fire against Max Scherzer. But they're going to send to the mound John Neese, who's been maybe even a little bit worse than Scherzer as of late. Although the Mets have come away with a couple of victories in his games, Scherzer hasn't won in his last 6 tries. John Neese, over the course of his last 5, is at least 2-1. But his 29 1/3 innings pitched over his last 5 starts have brought back a 7.06 ERA, 1.53 WHIP. He too has had problems with the long ball, 6 home runs in 29 1/3 innings. You've got a couple of pitchers here that aren't going real well at this point in time. Bullpens in this particular game today, I think the Mets might have a little bit of a concern here in this contest. Tyler Clippard, one of their most dependable late inning arms, threw 41 pitches yesterday. Addison Reed has thrown twice in the last 3 days, 37 pitches total, threw 14 yesterday. Hansel Robles threw 13. He's thrown twice in the last 3 days. To call upon those guys here would be back-to-back and 3 out of 4. I'm sure they're available, no doubt about it. Just looking at the fatigue situation in that pen. Pens have been stretched out due to the 40-man roster call-up, so there's not a lot of bullpen fatigue out there with quality arms, but there are a few situations. And for the Mets today, their bullpen lacks reliable arms anyway, so to have Clippard absent from this contest after throwing 41 pitches, to have Reed and Robles worked decently over the last 3 days could be a bit of a sore spot for the Mets. Not really a problem here today for the Washington Nationals. They're ready to go. Interesting series, big series. Like I say, Lucas Duda back for the Mets. Mets bullpen a bit of a concern. Max Scherzer not throwing well. The Nationals need him to stand up and lead here today. Taking a look at the price on this game, Washington and Scherzer opened $1.90. The money's been not real present in this contest, but there has been a bit of slight take back with the Mets, but not much. You can find Washington anywhere from $1.80 to $1.90 here. If you like the Mets in this contest, you can take back anywhere from $1.61 to $1.80. Nice dime line price available out there offshore with Washington minus 190, but the Mets plus 180. Total in this game opens 7.5 under 15. It sits at that number right now early this morning. Big series there. Another big series taking place today. The Cubs are going to go to St. Louis. Going to open this one up with Dan Herron against Lance Lynn. Lance Lynn, funny set of numbers here. When you look at his last 26 and a third innings thrown, you see that he's got a 2.39 ERA, which is exceptional. But that, along with it, has a 1.67 whip, which really doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense. Lance Lynn putting a lot of runners on base. Lance Lynn getting out of a lot of trouble. That's what the Cardinals do. They strand runners at an alarming rate. Very much a key to their success so far this season. Lance Lynn has only allowed 2 home runs in his last 26 and a third. Dan Herron on the other side just hasn't been good for the Cubs since he came over. In his last 5 starts, Dan Herron has gone 25 and 2/3 innings, an ERA of 5.96. He's allowed 7 home runs over the course of that 25 and 2/3. Lance Lynn has had some extra rest here. He's been off for 8 days heading into this one. We'll see if it's helped Lance Lynn as he takes on the Chicago Cubs here. Like I say, important series. The Cubbies in pursuit of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Right now, 3 games behind the Pirates. They're trying to get the home field for that wild card game, which appears to be just a matter of time from being solidified. Pittsburgh right now would be the home team in that game. The Cubs, however, 3 games out. Like I said earlier, we got about, in their case, you have 27 games left to play for both of those teams, and they'll see each other. So it'll be an interesting race down the stretch between the Cubs and the Pirates. The Cubs have to make sure that they don't get beat up in this St. Louis series because Pittsburgh's in Cincinnati, and Cincinnati just is not providing much competition for their opponents this second half of the season. They've fallen to 23 games under 500, 56 and 79. Last place in the Central, 4 and 6 over the course of their last 10. The Pirates have a chance to gain some real ground on the Cubs here. Should the Cubs have a hard time with St. Louis, and should Pittsburgh do what they're supposed to do and defeat the Cincinnati Reds? We'll go over the lines in these NL Central matchups for today. For the Pirates, it's going to be Jeff Locke against DeSclafani. For the Cincinnati Reds, game open 125, total of 8/20. And 125 is probably the average number across the board here. And the total has gone up somewhat. We see 8 over, now up to minus 125, minus 130. So some movement toward the over. The Dan Herron, Lance Lynn game, no line available as of yet. We'll wait and see where that comes up later. But once again, big series for the Cubs, big series for the Pirates to try and gain some ground on the Cubs. No bullpen issues for the Cubs or for the Pirates, but I'll tell you, to help the Pirates out in that particular series opener is the fact that Cincinnati's bullpen could be problematic today. The Reds, lacking a lot of quality arms out of the pen to begin with, do have a couple of their best with back-to-back days worth of work on their arms. Those 2 guys would be J.J. Hoover and Sam LeClaire. Both have thrown the last 2 days. For Hoover, 34 pitches. For LeClaire, 11 pitches. Aroldis Chapman only threw 11 yesterday. He'll be in good shape here, ready to go. But I worry a little bit about Hoover, and not so much LeClaire. When you only have 11 pitches, 6 and 5, perhaps the third day is not as big of a concern. You do have to always worry about, the times that the guys have to get up and throw to warm up out in the pen, then come out and pitch. Maybe you're up and down a couple of times. Hoover and LeClaire, things to look at here for the Cincinnati Reds. Pirates hold a distinct edge in the bullpen in that particular ball game. And moving on down the line here, as far as important series are concerned, we'll go over to the American League and see that Minnesota and Kansas City, game 927, 928. They open up a series today in KC. Kansas City beat up pretty good by the White Sox the last 3 days. They send to the hill Yordano Ventura, who arguably could be the best pitcher in baseball the last 3 weeks. Ventura putting up some incredible numbers, living up to all the hype that followed him when he first came up a couple years back. He and his 100-mile-an-hour fastball. He's had some difficulties with location, putting guys on for free. He's been down to the minor leagues for a little bit. He's had a small bout with injuries. All this stuff taking place since his call up about not a full 2 years ago, but let's say about a year and a half ago. Um, all of those things plaguing him, as has his episodes with beaning hitters, considered a bit immature at times, but all of that aside, right now, Yordano Ventura throwing exceptional baseball. His last 32 innings have produced a 4-0 record for he and his Kansas City Royals. His ERA over those 32 innings is 1.12. His WHIP 1.03. Yordano Ventura, we've been waiting for these type of numbers. 43 strikeouts in his last 32 innings. The Ks weren't coming as easily to him. Walks were coming more easily than Ks. Now he's striking batters out, overpowering guys. He's only allowed one home run in his last 32 innings. He seems to be 100% right now. He wasn't 100% for a lot of the spring and summer, mid-spring and then early summer, but boy, he's turned it on right now. And the Royals are going to need him because if you take a look at what's going on in that Kansas City bullpen, normally a sure thing to be effective night in and night out, there's some problems down there right now. Greg Holland, the closer, continues to deal with some elbow stiffness, and Kansas City fans have been nervous since the beginning of August. Now we're into almost the second week of September here, and Greg Holland has not pitched in the last 5 days. The elbow stiffness a real concern. Last time he threw was August 28th. Wondering how Greg Holland is going to come out of this, and will he be effective down the stretch for the Royals? They've got a huge lead in the Central Division. Really doesn't make much difference if they play 400 ball till the end of the season, because they have a 12-game lead over the Minnesota Twins. However, you would like to keep home field advantage throughout the American League playoffs and championship series. And right now, Toronto breathing down their necks a little bit. Toronto just 4 games behind Kansas City as far as home field is concerned. So you got Greg Holland, who's a problem out of that bullpen. You've got Kelvin Herrera, who's out with chicken pox. This probably the second hardest thrower in that bullpen, and a huge arm in the 8th inning, 7th inning, 8th inning. You've got Ryan Madson, who just came back from what was listed as a dead arm. Pitched a few days ago, but you've got Madson with a little bit of problem there. Their options right now out of the pen are a little bit limited, and as limited as they've been over the last 2 seasons. So you look at today, Wade Davis is the given. Wade Davis can close. He's almost automatic in that role when asked to do so. So Wade Davis, not a problem. But Luke Hochevar, 18 pitches yesterday. The previously mentioned Ryan Madson and his dead arm came back to throw yesterday, 23 pitches. Franklin Morales has gone back-to-back days. Chris Young threw 53 pitches yesterday. If you're looking at what could be used today out of the pen to back up Ventura, Wade Davis, as I mentioned, certainly could close. Hochevar, in all likelihood, could come back today after only throwing 18 pitches yesterday. I would not count on Ryan Madson. Like I say, he returned from a dead arm to throw 23 pitches yesterday. I wouldn't count on Morales throwing back-to-back days. Wouldn't count on Young throwing 53 pitches. He's certainly out of the equation today. Not much left. Just not much left in that bullpen. It's a far cry. What's available today for Kansas City out of their bullpen is a far cry from what's usually available. Normally an embarrassment of riches for Ned Yost. He's going to look down there, and there's not a whole heck of a lot to call upon. The hope here for Kansas City, obviously, is that Yordano Ventura tames that Minnesota Twin lineup and makes things rather easy on Ned Yost and the bullpen. The line opened in this game, Kansas City minus $1.75. They've been bet directly up, and they've been bet up solely on the basis of Giordano's current form. It makes sense. I gotta say, Giordano Ventura has been great, but his current form, the reason for the kick up in price from $1.75 now to at least $1.85 in most venues. You can still find a couple of cheaper high 70s type prices at a couple of houses in Las Vegas, but Ventura right now is about a dime move toward him in this game. Total opened at 8. It's gone up from 8 pick'em to 8 over minus 15. Tommy Milone, the pitcher on the other side here. Tommy Milone hasn't thrown bad recently. 1.01 whip over his last 5 starts. Certainly no match at this point in time, though, for Giordano Ventura. If each throws to the way they've been throwing recently, Ventura the better pitcher. If Ventura can get through, I'm going to say this, if Ventura gets through 7 with the lead today, KC probably closes out Minnesota. Their bullpen, they can get 3 outs in the 8th, and then Wade Davis can slam the door in the 9th. But it's a very tentative situation right now until Kelvin Herrera gets back from his illness in that Kansas City bullpen. The Twins lost yesterday to the Houston Astros. Right now, the Twins still chasing that number 2 wild card slot, and they're the closest competitor to the Texas Rangers, who currently hold that spot. Minnesota just 1.5 games out of first place, or out of the second wild card spot right now. So look for Minnesota to go ahead and be very I don't want to say aggressive, but I think that in this series, Paul Molitor is going to pull out all the stops to try and get his team wins. Their bullpen is in good shape here. Minnesota just needs to hit Ventura today. That would be the main thing. If they can get to Ventura, they'll win. Wouldn't count on it, though. Ventura's been absolutely wonderful over the course of the last 3 weeks. And those are your 3 main series in baseball, the most meaningful series in Major League Baseball. One interleague series that's going to take place between the Angels and the Dodgers does carry a little bit of importance as well, especially for the LA Angels, who are chasing a wild card slot. LA right now sits 2.5 games out of that wild card slot, chasing Texas, certainly very much in it. Need to have a big series against the Dodgers, but they're going to catch Zach Greinke tonight, which could be difficult. Nick Tropiano on the hill for the Angels. You know, the Dodgers, one of 2 teams that we see right now with magic numbers attached to their names when you look at standings. The St. Louis Cardinals magic number of 15, and the LA Dodgers with a magic number of 19. So those 2 teams in particular closing in on their respective divisions. Kansas City Royals also with a magic number attached to them. So you got 3 teams that are way out in front looking to finalize things. For the Dodgers, they'll get a DH in this series because it is at the LA Angels. Good news for the Dodgers, actually, because to add an extra hitter to their lineup is always a big help. That game in particular shows Zach Greinke minus $1.70. Take back on the Angels right now anywhere between 53 and 55 cents on the take back with the Anaheim Angels. Zach Greinke, no need to go over his numbers. Been phenomenal all season long. I think it's going to be difficult for call him a sputtering Angels offense. They've shown a couple of flashes lately, but for the most part, since August began, this has not been a good offense. Mike Trout hit his first home run in a month yesterday. Maybe he breaks out. Don't know if you break out against Zach Greinke, though. Difficult spot here for the Angels. The Dodgers playing very good baseball right now. Last couple of weeks when they were called upon to get wins, they came out and got wins. Bullpen blew one for them, a 7-4 lead the other night when they had come back and taken a 7-4 lead. Then the bullpen just caved in against San Diego. But other than that, it's been a real good run for the LA Dodgers. Playing good baseball right now. So those are probably your 4 most significant series which begin today on Labor Day. We'll move right now to others around the major leagues who are red hot as far as starting pitchers are concerned. Let's turn our attention to those starting pitchers who are throwing today. Game 903, 904 on the card is Milwaukee, Miami. And the reason we bring it up is for Justin Nicolino, the left-hander for Miami. He's been sensational lately. He's not a strikeout pitcher. He's not an overpowering guy, but the rookie has gotten outs. He keeps the ball in the park, hasn't walked a lot of hitters. And like I say, he's a pitch-to-contact guy who's getting outs at this point in time. 33 innings pitched in his last 5 starts, a 2.73 ERA, a 1.27 WHIP, only 2 home runs allowed in those 33 innings. Take a look at Justin Nicolino today. He's been pitching very good. I thought perhaps a bit of a mirage because he does allow so much contact to be made. But right now he's been real good. The one thing you want to watch out for here is Milwaukee's lineup has really woken up. They've played 6 consecutive overs, had a real good weekend series. So Milwaukee not showing a lot of give up as their season just basically runs out to an end here. But give them credit. They're playing hard. Neither bullpen's in trouble here. I don't think we'll see Giancarlo Stanton. That setback probably keeps him out of the lineup here. They thought he would return last Friday. It didn't happen. I don't know at this point when Miami's going to try and bring him back, if they do at all. But the lineup's been good without him. Like I say, they play hard each and every day. And with D. Gordon at the top and Christian Yelich right behind him, they're able to manufacture some runs. Not always a highly productive team, but able to manufacture some things. Justin Bour, the cleanup hitter from the left-hand side, has really made a mark on this 2015 season. He's come up with a vengeance, hit his 16th home run yesterday. Miami behind Nicolino here today, $1.35 favorite on the opener. Right now they sit anywhere between $1.30 and $1.35. Total opened 8.5 under 20. It's right about where it sits right now. I'd look at Miami though, just like the way Nicolino's pitching. Very surprised that the rookie's been able to do what he's done, but when you look back, he was a second-round draft pick by the Blue Jays, so there were a lot of expectations that came with him. Right now, he's living up to those expectations. Let's move down the National League card. 909, 910, San Francisco at Arizona. Mike Leake is another one of those starting pitchers who's throwing very well right now. 33 2/3 pitched in his last 5 outings, a 0.86 WHIP. Only allowed 3 home runs in those 33 innings. He's got a 2.41 ERA, and the Giants need good pitching performances right now. They busted out of that slump with a couple of big wins against Colorado over the weekend. They are in, I call it pursuit of Los Angeles, or desperate pursuit of the Los Angeles Dodgers right now, being 7.5 games out of the NL West lead and 8 games out of the wild card. So it's do or die time every single game for the San Francisco Giants right now. Mike Leake has been a reliable starter. However, in Arizona tonight, he faces Patrick Corbin, and Corbin probably the best arm on the Arizona Diamondbacks starting staff right now. You could argue that De La Rosa's been very good also. Couldn't argue that. Those two guys combined, lefty-righty, form a pretty bright future for the Arizona Diamondbacks. But Corbin really is their ace. 26 strikeouts in his last 27 innings. That's a pretty good number. Pat Corbin, of course, working his way back from injury, and he seems to be easing back into his spot here. 3.33 ERA over his last 5 starts. Diamondbacks currently on a 4-game losing streak. The bullpen is a mess. We talked about that about a little over a week ago, when the front office decided to make the moves that they made with the bullpen, with the relief staff, getting rid of Addison Reed, sending Andrew Chafin back down, 2 of their top 3 arms. We just knew that Arizona's bullpen was going to be a hazard the rest of the way out. Could become a hazard here tonight because San Francisco's a good hitting team against left-handers. So if Corbin can make it through 6 or even 7, he still has to turn the ball over to that pen at some point. Making it through 6 or 7 against, like I say, a San Francisco lineup that hits lefties pretty well is going to be a tough task. Mike Leake on the other side, just humming right along right now. And when he gets in one of these grooves, you usually like to stay away from him. Either you play on Mike Leake or you get out of the way. In this particular game, Corbin opened up a $1.15 favorite. Bet down in most places. You see Pat Corbin right now listed as anywhere from a $1.07 favorite to a $1.15 San Francisco, I don't think you can catch a real underdog price anymore. I see a couple out there, a couple of stragglers where you can maybe get $1.03, $1.05, but otherwise you're going to lay a very, very small price, some amount of cents here between 3 and a nickel. So almost a pick 'em game right now. Mike Leake, Patrick Corbin, San Francisco needs it desperately. Huge edge for the Giants where the bullpen is concerned late in the game. San Diego's Ian Kennedy, game 9-11, 9-12, has been phenomenal lately. Ian Kennedy, boy oh boy, remember him a couple of years back pitching for the Diamondbacks in that playoff series against the Brewers when he was really red hot. A couple of years since haven't been as good, but lately Ian Kennedy's showing extremely good form. 31 and a third innings pitched in his last 5 starts, a 1.12 whip and a 1.72 ERA, 41 strikeouts in 31 and a third innings. The Padres have lost 3 straight. That's because they played the Dodgers. The Rockies have lost 2 straight. That's because San Francisco bounced back and figured out how to win again. But today, Kyle Kendrick against Ian Kennedy just seems like a huge pitching mismatch. Kennedy's just been so good and overpowering, I guess is the best word to use, because his 41 Ks in 31 and a third innings have shown the strikeout pitches there. I like Ian Kennedy in this game. Number open -165. Sits right about there right now. Not a lot of variance in this number. You get between $1.65, $1.70 at any offshore house. In Las Vegas, maybe still catch a little 160 with Kennedy if you can. I see it's available out there in a couple of spots. But this guy, of all the pitchers tonight, aside from Yordano Ventura, has been probably the hottest in baseball. Of course, when we say the hottest, in consideration there and taken for granted are Clayton Kershaw and Zach Greinke, and to some extent David Price. But these two guys, for second-tier pitchers, have been outstanding. I would look towards Ian Kennedy tonight against the Colorado Rockies. Another hot pitcher who probably falls in that category with Kershaw and Greinke is Chris Sale of the White Sox. White Sox on a 4-game win streak right now. Very good series against the KC Royals from an offensive point of view and from a pitching point of view. They did the job. Got themselves 3 wins. Chris Sale over his last 5 has a 0.89 whip, 2.34 ERA. He's facing a fading Trevor Bauer here today. So with Trevor Bauer going south and with Chris Sale just dominating, 53 strikeouts in his last 34 2/3, 3-0 record over his last 5, only 1 home run allowed in his last 34 2/3. You can see where the huge advantage is. Obviously, that's reflected in the line. Chris Sale opened $1.80. Bettors had no trouble immediately flocking to Chris Sale. He's pushing $2 in a couple of offshores right now. You can find him anywhere from about $1.85 to $1.97. Move is on Chris Sale here. The total in this game, 7.5 under -20. Sticks at right about that price right now. The Cleveland Indians still in this wild card race. 5 games out. They've come from way off the pace to be very competitive this second half of the season. They need something big out of Trevor Bauer here. One good sign for Cleveland could be that White Sox bullpen, which is a bullpen today I would consider somewhat of a concern. You take a look at what's going on in there the last couple of days. They've won games. They've won games because the bullpen was called upon and needed, and they did come through. Your best 3 arms in that bullpen, without question, Zach Duke, Jake Petricka, David Robertson, have all thrown back-to-back days. 25 pitches for Duke in all. Petricka's thrown 11, Robertson 25, and 39 pitching 3 of the last 4 days. So you might want to consider that with the White Sox here. Of course, Sale, absolutely capable of going the distance in this one. But if he comes out, if he gets into one of those types of outings where he runs up the pitch count and you have to go to the bullpen, that could be a little problematic for the White Sox. However, if the offense can get to Bauer, and offenses have gotten to Bauer quite easily lately, then maybe the scoring margin doesn't really make the bullpen much of a significant factor in a negative way in this contest. The White Sox, as I mentioned, big favorites here. Chris Sale, red hot right now, hard to look against them. If you go to the game right underneath Cleveland and the White Sox, 923, 924, Houston and Oakland, Mike Fiers against Felix Doubront. Mike Fiers, he's on fire, absolutely lately. He's been one of your top pitchers in the American League. We know he threw the no-hitter against the Dodgers, but overall his last 5 starts have produced 32 innings and a 1.00 whip, 2.25 ERA. Only allowed 2 home runs in those 32 innings pitched. Boy, when you throw well with the Houston Astro lineup behind you against a pitcher like Felix Doubront, who coming from the left-hand side into a lot of Astro right-handed power, and a guy who doesn't strike out an awful lot of batters, it's usually problematic for the opposing pitcher. So we'll see if Houston's offense can get to Felix Doubront tonight. He hasn't been horrible in his last 5 games, 24 2/3 innings, 3.28 ERA, 1.34 whip, certainly decent numbers. In fact, for an American League pitcher, those are better than average numbers. He's only allowed 1 home run in his last 24 2/3. That's a good sign when you're facing the Houston Astros, who really like to hit the long ball. They made good use of it yesterday. Jed Lowry comes up with a grand slam in the bottom of the 7th to give Houston a 5-2 lead, and they walk on from there to win 8-3. But Mike Fiers, certainly the better pitcher in this game. Oakland's on a 5-game losing streak right now, so the Oakland A's obviously way out of it and not playing great baseball last week. We'll see if they can turn it around here with Doubront. The matchup favors Fiers. It doesn't favor him as much as other pitching matchups we've discussed during the podcast, but he did open $1.40, been bet up to about $1.45. Most places you'll find Mike Fiers minus 145. There is 150 out there, but that's the general price here. Mike Fiers minus 145, and the total in this contest, 7.5, has been bet up a little bit from 7.5 pick to 7.5 over, minus 15. Those are your red hot pitchers in Major League Baseball right now. Other than that, not too much to discuss today. We talked about the bullpens, the 4 in particular, Cincinnati, the White Sox, KC, and the Mets, that could be problematic. Talked about your hot pitchers. Put a note next to those guys: Nicolino, Leake, Kennedy, Sale, Fiers, and Ventura. Talked about your key series here. Remember, Max Scherzer throwing for the Washington Nationals today. They really need him to step up. He has been abysmal recently. 28 innings pitched. Like I said earlier, the strikeout numbers are there, but the rest aren't. We'll see if the Mets can take advantage of that, or if Washington continues their hot streak. Other than that, the rest of the games on the board they have little meaning as far as standings are concerned. We'll see how those turn out. But for today, that'll be your MLB general overview on today's card. Good luck with all your plays in Major League Baseball this afternoon.